filling in this two-way talk. This is Andre Melton filling in for Gabe Ortiz right here on this Sports Friday. We do have Coach Butch McAdams in the second hour, but in the first hour, I like to call this the Flex Zone Takeover because I do have my right-hand man, the host of the Flex Zone podcast, Byron Dixon, on with me. Byron, how are you?
Drizzy Dre, as they would say, it's happy hour somewhere in the flex zone, baby. Getting your happy hour started off better than the dynamic duo of the man of 1,000 nicknames, God's favorite host.
And we got in studio when he always likes to say, when the Flex Zone calls, he comes running. Morgan alumni Brian H. Waters in the building. What's good, everybody?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me. What a day. I just
B
got
Waters, man, the perfect guy to have on today. What's up, brother?
What's up, bro? How you feeling?
Hey,
Well-
man, I made it to the big times anytime I'm on a show with you and Dre.
Well, we call this the Flex Zone Takeover, y'all, because, like I said, it is we got a combination of the Flex Zone and the wrestling realm. But a little background behind us is that also both of us have all participated in Fox Sports 1340. So we go back doing this sports thing. We have been doing this for years, y'all. So this is nothing new, and we appreciate Gabe Ortiz for trusting us to take over for this Friday edition of Two-Way Talk. We also have later on at the bottom of the hour a special interview with Eris Thomas. She is the first SID at Winston-Salem since this is the CIAA weekend. So make sure y'all stay tuned. And the first topic that we're going to get right into is the Bullies of Baltimore documentary. Now, the Bullies of Baltimore documentary came on a couple weeks ago. It was the 30 for 30 featuring the 2000 Ravens team. And of course, we always think that the 30 for 30s are some great documentaries out there. But was this the best one or just one of the best? What are your thoughts?
I'm biased. That was the best one. First of all, thanks for having me and letting me talk some sports. I don't do it too much. But right when I got to see Ray Lewis and Jamal Lewis, Rod Woodson, and rest in peace, Tony Saragusa, which makes me so happy they was able to film this while he was still with us. It just took me back, man. And usually around Super Bowl time, and sometimes during a random week in the summer, I like to go back and look at those 2000 Ravens and the 2012 Ravens. And while my Ravens fandom is in the air right now, pending free agency, if you know what I'm talking about, this right here just took me back as a child. And I'm so glad they featured the guy who stayed on the roof because nobody really talks about that. People forget about that year when the Ravens couldn't score a touchdown. And if you notice something about when you compare both Super Bowls, they had to make a change on the offense in order for them to win. I don't think they win the Super Bowl with Tony Banks because he was just throwing games away. Where Trent Dilfer came in there and he was able to. I don't like to just call him a game manager. I know a lot of people say that. But if you look at that Super Bowl, he made some plays. He made some plays happen. But the defense was just so good. And they the best defense of all time. Let's not kid ourselves.
Byron, so with this documentary, what were your thoughts about it as well?
Well, I was only 7 when the Ravens did win the Super Bowl in 2000, so I do remember it, but I don't remember the specific details. Like Brian said, the goof on the roof, the personality of this team. You think about Baltimore as a city, blue collar, hard, tough nose. You can't be no punk. And that's the nice way of putting it growing up in Baltimore. They embodied the personality of Brian Billick, who is one of the most underrated coaches, I think, in NFL history, especially when you look at teams who won the Super Bowl. And then you look at Ray Lewis, Shannon Sharp, Saragusa, who made the documentary, in my opinion, probably was the MVP, Jack Del Rio, Marvin Lewis, just some of the names. And like Brian said, Trent Dilfer, yeah, he was not the most electrifying quarterback, but when you needed him to make a play most, he made that play for you. And he did it in the brightest lights, biggest stages. And this documentary just highlighted why the Ravens, the 2000 Ravens, that defense is the greatest defense of all time. I do agree with Brian, but this team should be appreciated. And now, over 20 plus years later, we get to revisit and relive that nostalgia and how they just dominated and whooped the butt of the Giants on the Super Bowl. They only scored because of a kickoff. Let's not forget that. So that documentary, getting that celebration, I know our good friend Carlos was there. at the event when they did the celebration, having them all together because unfortunately, fellas, life is short. You never know here today, gone tomorrow. But to have that highlighted and show the city in the positive light was just a wonderful thing.
I was in ninth grade when this was happening, right? And I remember vividly there was a shift in November.
Mhm.
And I remember my friend Brandon vividly saying, I'll give anybody $100 if you tell me who can beat the Ravens. And at that time, the other teams that people were considering was obviously the Titans, the Minnesota Vikings, because they beat the Giants, and they said really because they took them lightly. But those teams were kind of like explosive. Because if people remember, the Ravens didn't have a bye week, but in essentially they was playing catch up because once they found that rhythm, like when it got cold, it was a wrap. But I vividly remember that. And when they faced Oakland, and Oakland was the team, that was the other team who had that high power offense. It was like, they can't beat the Ravens. And you just had that confidence. And it was, like I said, it was great to watch. And it really solidified Ray Lewis as a legend immediately.
When you talk about the documentary, I know you said Tony Saragusa was the star, but also Brian Billick, who was one great coach, because in order to take all those personalities and then mesh them together, and then, I mean, seeing the documentary about how he was able to really hone in and make that change. I mean, that's a gutsy call to make that change to Trent Dilfer. And then, like you said, that was a huge shift for the Baltimore Ravens because that was the spark that they needed on offense. And all they needed was just a little bit in order to project them to win that Super Bowl that year.
Yep.
And I know we've talked about the Bullies of Baltimore documentary. You're saying you're a little biased, but I mean, I don't really think it's biased because it was really like a homegrown documentary, and you had a feel for it. Plus, you had input from not only just the players but also the coaches. This felt like kind of an America's Game NFL Network type of documentary brought to ESPN. So, Byron, do you think this is the best 30 for 30 that ESPN has done thus far?
It's definitely in the top, probably 4 or 5, just off the top of my head. I'm trying to think of some of the best ones. I know the one, probably my favorite, may have been the Fab Five. Right now, off the top of my head, that was pretty good. I think they had the one on, what was that?
I know the Bad Boys was good too.
Yeah, Bad Boys was pretty good. I mean, this wasn't a 30 for 30, but this happened during COVID. Last Dance stands out to me just off of sports documentaries personally. And I think that when you look at some of these situations that they put together, ESPN, they do a hell of a job and they have to be commended. I know we slide them when they go off the rails, but they do a great job with their hard news documentaries.
Yeah, I think that they did a really good job. And then also some people that are doing a really good job right now is we're tuning into wrestling now with A&E. They're doing a really great job right now with the WWE Rivals and then also the WWE documentary series that they're doing right now. What is your take on that, Brian, especially you having the Wrestling Realm podcast?
Man, let me tell you, anytime you can see the story told in different ways, I look at it, and some of the stuff is like the NWO. Okay, I have 3 NWO DVDs and Blu-rays, so I kind of know the story. But as more information comes out, as rumors are dispelled, it's always kind of fun to see some of these refreshers, right? So I think that's good. I love that they did take some old footage from Scott Hall and put it in there because, let's not kid ourselves. He was a huge part of it. So that was cool. But I love what they're doing. I'm always down for wrestling content. Like my seasons don't go spring, summer, fall, winter. My seasons go WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, SummerSlam. And right now we're in WrestleMania season. So I'm really excited about it. And like I'm working on some stuff for the Ringer where I'm looking back at some of the old WrestleManias. So being able to get these docuseries and these documentaries are really helping out with these projects.
What are your thoughts, Byron, especially on the latest one, the NWO? And I believe Jake the Snake is the next one coming up.
Yes, real quick, just on the 30 for 30. They had one on Iverson that was pretty good. They had one on the XFL that jumps out to me. I was just doing a quick Google search, and I believe there was one more. They had the one about Bo. You didn't know about Bo Jackson. So those were some ones that jumped out to me because they've been doing these for over 100 episodes, everybody. So they've been on it for a minute. But as far as the wrestling, we love wrestling here on the Flex Zone, so shout out to everybody in the chat. But I mean, NWO, the greatest stable, greatest heel faction of all time. And I mean, the bloodline may be raising up the ante and giving them a run for their money, especially for our storytelling. And I mean, we can debate that for as long as Roman is going to be champion, which I hope actually goes past WrestleMania. But
Same.
seeing seeing what is going on with the revitalization and interest and not just in-ring wrestling, but storytelling. And what goes into storytelling, and Brian, I'm sure you and Dre know, it's the things outside of the ring, the WWE 24s, where you get to know and build the character development and you get to see what it takes to really be a professional wrestler. You don't just put on the tights and go out there, and it's not ballet, as they say. You got to really put in the work, just like with any professional sport. And like you said, NWO, that story of how a bunch of misfits kind of came together, and then you get Hogan, the teacher's pet, essentially, to turn to bad guy, and then Jake the Snake, all he's been through, and looking where he's at now. I mean, yeah, I'm happy he's still here to tell his story as well. So it's great to see those things, and I really like the WWE rivals aspect where they talk about the rivalries and how these rivalries kind of solidified WWE in the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era as well.
Well, we're talking about Roman Reigns, who's had over 900 days as WWE champion. The next closest person who he can catch up to as far as that would be Pedro Morales at 1,027 days. After that is Bruno Sammartino at 1,237 days. And then after that is Hulk Hogan at 1,474 days. Which person do you think Roman Reigns can actually catch up to as far as the longest title reign?
So
Because clearly he's not going to catch up to Bob Backlund or Bruno Sammartino's runs of over 2,000 and over 2,000 days.
what's Hogan's? You said over 1,200, right?
Pedro's at a little over 1,000. Bruno about a little over 1,200, and Hogan is 1,474.
Okay, so if he goes in, I looked this up the other day. If he gets 1,000, it'll be around the May.
Mhm.
We're looking at Backlash, which was just announced, and then they're going to do May 6th, I think, and they're going to do a King and Queen tournament, which I don't see Roman even at the event, but I could see. It all depends, right? Because Cody's story is finished the story. It's like, which do you want more? Do you want this story to be finished, or do you want this bloodline reign to continue? Roman Reigns did a piece. He spoke to Jonathan Snowden of The Ringer, and he said, we're only in the second quarter. If this is football, we're only in the second quarter. And he said, when they tell this story, it's going to be fun 20 years from now. I say he goes past Morales. I'm not sure if he hits the 1,200 plus day mark, but I could see him reaching over 1,000. I could see him reaching 1,100 days. I could really see him going to SummerSlam. Last year, I said, 2021 in December, I made a bold statement. I said Roman would walk in as champion and he would leave as champion. That happened.
Mhm.
The thing that really handicaps everything right now, to be honest with you, is the fact that both belts are in his possession. If you didn't have both belts in his possession, I would feel more confident saying he would go a whole nother year. Right now, I'm not sure. I want to see the belt split. People saying that whoever beats him should take both titles from him. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. So that's where I am with this.
Byron, what are your thoughts?
Roman should not lose. And let me preface my comments by, even before Cody came back to WWE, you guys know I love AEW. When I heard he was going back to WWE, I said, that's the guy that should beat Roman. While he is still the guy, not right now. Brian, you mentioned it. What is the story? Got to finish the story. Really, Cody kind of screwed that at the Rumble because you come in at number 30, you last only 12 minutes. People were cheering for Gunther to win. So in a sense, if you put the titles on Cody right now, then what? It's always about the follow-up. People don't realize that. You put the titles on Cody, then what? People are going to start booing him. He's going to become a stale babyface, which WWE has a terrible job booking babyface champions, much like other companies. But WWE, we know it's all about the numbers in and out of the ring. Brian, Dre, y'all can attest to this. And there's a certain somebody that is back at Titan Tower, and we'll get into that, over the next few months as the company could be sold and he wants power. But he likes round numbers. 1,000 days. They want to push the narrative of Roman being the greatest, the LeBron James of this generation. I do think that the story can still continue where Roman could beat Cody and you can have Cody start from the bottom, and you can really see why did Cody leave WWE? What drove him to go to these independent companies and really become a made man? What it took for him to go from Stardust to being the star of the biggest wrestling company in the world. And I think that story could continue to a SummerSlam. What's another 3 or 4 months, 100 days for Roman to hold the belts? He's held them this long. I mean, is there really anybody else that you believe in right now that should really beat Roman? Even Cody, in my opinion. And with the story that they're telling, it started with Jey Uso. It looks like possibly, why not just have Jey Uso maybe be the guy eventually down the line later this year if that's what we're going to do? I mean, Sammy's more popular than Cody right now.
Well, let me dispel something real quick, Byron. Because the internet can have a way of making things seem different. I was in San Antonio in the Alamo Dome. There wasn't that many Gunther chance to win. When Cody won, there was a pop. Was it Sami Zayn turning on the bloodline pop? No, but there was a pop when Cody won. Gunther was respected. He became a star that night, but it wasn't your Roman Reigns Batista moment. Now, I do think Jey Uso could be the guy because that's the ultimate payoff, in my opinion, especially if we separate ourselves from seeing him as only a tag team, But right now, I think that would make the most sense. Second, you have Seth Rollins, who can still say Roman never beat him because he beat him by disqualification, which I think was done purposely to keep that long-term story building. Cody, you're right. If you have Cody lose and fall down on the ultimate climb up, I think it could be special. You think about, even though he was a heel, Shawn Michaels losing the Diesel at WrestleMania 11.
Oh, and then at WrestleMania 12 coming back and
Exactly.
getting the belt, yes.
So you could do that, and then Cody could win back-to-back Royal Rumble. So it's a lot of ways to go there, but Roman is still hot. And this whole thing with Sami Zayn emerged him and made him even hotter because of the fact that the people are booing him again. Because there was the cool heel. He was the cool heel for a while, but now they're booing him again. So it's a lot of ways you can go with this.
So what should be, especially coming from the wrestling realm, what should be the direction now? Because like you mentioned Cody Rhodes, you mentioned Sami Zayn. We're seeing the emergence of some tag teams splitting, but also emerging single stars such as Montez Ford and Jey Uso.
Mm-hmm.
So who should be the guy to beat Roman Reigns?
So for a while, I didn't think the person was on the main roster. Then I shamefully say, at one point I thought it was Braun Breaker, but Braun hit a wall that he hasn't been able to overcome. So he's actually on his way to become a heel. Actually, I just talked about this with David Shoemaker today. There was rumors that they were planting signs that make people boo Braun. But I said, fans who down there said that's not true. I think you're going to have a double turn with him and Mello Hayes. But I don't think, like right now, I think if anybody beats Roman, the best person is Jey Uso because Jey took the beating to establish the bloodline. No matter which way you look at it, nobody took a beating. Solo just conformed. Jimmy took a beating a little bit, but he was rebellious. Jey just wanted to be cool, but then Roman's like, no, you have to acknowledge me. So I think Jey should be the guy.
What are your thoughts, Byron?
I would like to see Montez Ford win Money in the Bank. I think you can do a situation like the New Day where you put him on separate shows. You don't have to have one turn heel. You could have Angelo Dawkins go on his own. I think he's improved dramatically better than he was this time last year. He looks great. Kind of on that Gunther trajectory, in my opinion. I think a guy like Montez Ford, a guy like LA Knight, even Sami Zayn possibly winning Money in the Bank. It is in London. You know that crowd is going to be electric. And I do think WWE under Paul Levesque is trying to develop and build guys with stars. And remember, he said he's not calling up guys from NXT without a story and a plan for them. And I do think that, like Brian, I agree with you. I think Carmelo Hayes is the biggest star on NXT, and I think he is a future WrestleMania main eventer. Braun Breaker, I think, is better as a heel. He has potential, gotten a lot better. But I think Melo is just money, like you said. He got everything, and he's black, which you're gonna get my vote for that. He will be probably the next black world champion that we talk about in the next 3 to 4 years, outside of the Lashleys and Big E's and guys like that, The Rock. But They have some guys that they are starting to build up, and you can see long-term booking. It's not about the payoff today. It's not about the payoff tomorrow. We're gonna put it in the oven. We're gonna let it marinate. And like Brian said, like Roman said, second quarter. If we're only in the second quarter, there's a big WrestleMania next year, guys, that we're gonna try to be at. WrestleMania 40 in Philly. You know that crowd's gonna be electric. So we may still get the Rock and Roman for all we know before this bloodline story wraps up. Who knows?
Right. We're about to take a quick break, but we're actually about to transition topics because we're going to ask you guys and call in 410-319-8888. Who has the GOAT birthday? There's December 30th and February 17th. We'll tell you more on the other side of this break.
Oh,
Is good. Is two-way talk here on W. Edition here, this Flex Zone Takeover edition of Two Way Talk. I've got Byron on the line, and I've also got my brother Byron Waters in the building with me.
Byron Waters.
Brian Waters.
Put an H on there, man. You know the
Brian.
I got you don't know.
With these wrestling terms, man, it was Brian Waters, then it was Brian H. Waters.
Well, actually, because what happened.
Tell the people real quick the story about how you put the H in there.
I'll give that back. So it used to be Mr. Main Event B-Dub. Then it was Mr. Main Event Brian Waters. And that just got to be too much to say. And I was like, all right, let me just go by Brian H. Waters. And the reason I put the H because, there's an all-pro. He might be in the Hall of Fame named Brian Waters who played football. Mm-hmm. And one time somebody hit me on Facebook. Hey, I took a picture with you years ago. And they put his picture. I'm like, that wasn't me. Wow. And this is like before I was early in wrestling content creating. So I made sure, throw the H in there. Shout out to Black Wrestling's fam. He always say, it's like a Tribe Called Quest. Gotta have an H. Brian H. Waters.
Okay. Well, appreciate the story, man. And of course, you are a part of the wrestling realm as well. Tell the people a little bit about the wrestling realm.
All right. So the wrestling realm started right here at Morgan State University. When I leave out here, I got the belt. Shout out to my good brother, Brandon Guy. If you follow me on Instagram or at Brian H. Waters or the Wrestling Realm at Wrestling Realm, spelled with a W, the realm that is. If you follow us, you'll see that we have a custom championship belt. But it started with me and my brother, the real Dwayne Allen. We
it
was
was also a Morgan night.
another Morgan night. You know, we was in Professor Gillespie Millington's class. It was a TV studio class, and we were talking. We was doing introductions, and my friend Danny made it be known that I was a wrestling fan and I had a wrestling show. And Dwayne was like, "There's nothing wrong with that." And next thing you know, me and him started talking wrestling. The wrestling show I had with my cousin was fading away, and I said, "This is the guy. We need to have a show together." And we created the wrestling room in the library. We had plans, business meetings, and figured out how we wanted to do this. July 1st is dated for the first episode on our YouTube channel at the Wrestling Realm. So we've been doing this ever since then. And, you know, we got to give a huge shout out to Andre Melton, because there was a time when I went to ESPN to work where the Wrestling Realm had to be on pause. It was Andre who kept it alive with inviting us on the Flex Zone, inviting us to WEAA just to talk wrestling. And he always mentioned the Wrestling Realm. So this brother right here really made sure that if we had the slightest idea of going away, we couldn't, because he made sure we stayed relevant. And, you know, I've been doing that, and it's allowed me to have opportunities. My day job is working for The Ringer, you know, owned by, it's owned by Spotify, known for Bill Simmons' podcast. That's where it's hosted and lives. But I produce the wrestling shows there. So this week was Wellness Week. So I literally produced 5 shows. Every day I've been producing the show. The Masked Man on Mondays. And before I came in here, I just finished uploading The Masked Man today with David Shoemaker and Kazim Famuyiwa. And then also this week I did Cheap Heat with Peter Rosenberg, Stack Eye Greg, and Dip. And then every Wednesday I do Wednesday Worldwide, which is me, Cal, and Ben Cruz. Shout out to them. So we do the show every Wednesday. And then Wednesday nights I do TWG Fan Club with Queen PR of Those Wrestling Girls. And we also join with Ciendo and Justin Rich, and sometimes Krista B of Those Wrestling Girls will hop in. So yeah, Wednesdays, we say Wednesdays for wrestling because every Wednesday night at 10:30, the Wrestling Realm goes live. You might see Brother Raj in the comments. He's always commenting from the Flex Zone's YouTube channel. So that's always great. Me, the real Dwayne Allen, Brother Hugh, and sometimes Brother Brandon. And we just, you know, talk wrestling. So y'all wrestling fans, follow me at Brian H. Waters. You'll see my schedule pretty much. I'm always talking wrestling. I'm actually doing some writing too. We have a Patreon account on the Wrestling Realm, but we also where we got exclusives, so people can subscribe to that and get some of those exclusive content we have.
I don't know how they're going to fit all that into the Garden of Fame outside of the School of Global Journalism and
That
Communication.
is a goal. I'm glad. Thank you. I'm happy to know that you feel that way, because that is a goal of mine to end up out there with the likes of Bill Roden and April Ryan.
But it's going to happen. I don't know how they're going to condense it.
So you talk to Professor Jones.
All right.
Let her know. Dean Jones
Dean
now.
Jones.
You know,
I say Dean Jones.
I talked to Dean Wickham in Vegas, and I'll just say he told me to holler at him a little bit later.
Yeah, shout out to our founding dean here at the School of Global Journalism and Communications, Dean Wickham, and our now dean, Dean Jones.
Yeah, shout out to them.
So shout out to them. Yes. And also shout out to my brother, who's a fellow HBCU graduate, the host of the Flex Zone podcast, my brother Byron. How are you, man?
Always a pleasure. Like I said, it's happy hour somewhere, and what better way to celebrate than talking sports with you fellas? And we got Brian H. Waters here, man, the biggest heel in the industry. Not MJF, not Roman Reigns, Brian H. Waters.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. Can I give a couple quick shout outs? Because I've been getting some text messages. Shout out to Larry Legend, one of the greatest ring announcers in the world. He just texted me. He's listening. And shout out to Randall Newsom, my brother who's a reporter on WMAR. Yeah. You see him doing the Park Heights strut. Baltimore, he done made Baltimore home. So shout out to them.
Man, shout out to everybody listening. Appreciate y'all listening. Call in at 410-319-8888. The phone lines are open. And we're going to ask you right now, who has the GOAT birthday? So December 30th, LeBron James and Tiger Woods share a birthday. But then on February 17th, Michael Jordan and Jim Brown share a birthday as well. Whose birthday do you feel has to be able to say that they are the GOAT of their birthdays? December 30th or February 17th?
Man, I want to hear Byron.
You want to hear this perspective?
I want to hear Byron because I always enjoy and appreciate Byron's sports opinions and takes.
Thank you.
I want to hear him.
First of all, I'm surprised we didn't hear a July for Drizzy Dre. If you know, you know. Dre Day is a annual holiday that we celebrate amongst ourselves. But shout out to Dre as always. But I have to put LeBron James and Tiger Woods. I mean, think about Tiger Woods first and foremost. Prodigy. I mean, that was another great documentary. That wasn't on ESPN, I believe it was on HBO. But seeing the drive he had and what his father instilled in him and going to Stanford, like playing golf, like making it relevant. Then LeBron James. I mean, I might catch a lot of heat for this, but LeBron James is the greatest basketball player in the history of basketball. And a lot of people aren't going to accept that, and they're going to throw the 6 rings, and they're going to throw in, oh, Jordan never missed the playoffs with the Bulls. But LeBron James is practically a 40-year-old man. Let's think about that. And I know some of you listening right now may be close to that age or already over the hill. We love you. But this man is dunking better than pretty much everybody in the league, not named probably Ja Morant or whomever else you want to throw into that list. He's leading a team of he was leading a team of a bunch of nobodies. I think the Lakers did get him some help. AD can't stay healthy to save his life. He's missed the glass, always in a wheelchair or in street clothes. And this man still, each and every day he posts, all-time leading scorer, top 5 in assists. Still probably going to pay for another 2 or 3 years. Probably going to get his son drafted in the lottery because Bronny James is only getting drafted in the lottery because his name is Bronny James. Let's not mistake that fact, but we can talk about that another time for another day. But LeBron James still going strong. I don't know if he'll ever get another ring, but to still have 4, to have a 3-1 deficit he came back from against the greatest regular season team in the Warriors, just the things he can do, elevating his game. Because remember, he couldn't shoot at one point. Now he's one of the best shooters in the league, in my opinion. He can make mid-range. He can make the post up. He's one of the best, probably, in my opinion, he might be the best point guard ever. If you just want LeBron to play point for you, he can do damn near everything. But LeBron and Tiger Woods, I mean, come on now. Tiger, as of late, unfortunately, is not the same Tiger. But every time you hear golf, what's the first name you hear? Tiger Woods. Every time you hear NBA, who's the all-time vote getter for the All-Star game every year? LeBron. Who's picking the team and team LeBron versus whomever you want to throw in the East? I mean, it don't matter. Whoever the flavor of the next 2 years is, KD, Giannis, whomever else. But LeBron James, he's the face of the league. And not to mention, he's a billionaire and he puts his boys on. And he's got a school.
All right.
I mean, how do you expect me to follow up that? You know,
you asked him to go first.
I know, and I agree. I get a lot of heat because I say that LeBron James is the greatest. I'm a Kobe Bryant fan, and I thought, and I still do I think Kobe and Jordan are equal. And I said, but it's coming. It's going to happen. I said this before, Kobe unfortunately passed away. I looked at LeBron's body of work, and I said, first of all, the investments he makes into his body, but also the time he puts into his craft. I said, he's going to be the greatest of all time. If you want to construct a basketball player, you're going to construct a LeBron James. That's the tangibles, right? Sure, we can talk about the killer instinct that Kobe and Michael Jordan have. Absolutely. But if you want to know what's going to win, if you give Russell, because I love Russell Westbrook. I don't want to. If you give Patrick Beverly LeBron James' skill set with his instincts, he's going to be a winner. If you give Patrick Beverly his same skill set, but Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's kill mentality, it's not going to be the same. He's not going to win championships. So LeBron James is definitely the greatest, in my opinion, and that's always a fact of opinion. There's no way you can make that into a fact. But overall, I'm with Byron. It's December 30th. And even with Tiger Woods, up until really, Tiger did it for so long at a high level, really up until, the back injury. And even people who didn't know golf, he makes you tune in. If they said Tiger Woods is playing right now, you're tuning in to that. So he draws money.
Well, we do have callers on the line, so let's make sure that we get to these callers right now. First, we got Earl on line 1. Earl, what's your take?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, sir, how's it going?
I'm doing fine.
So what is your take about the GOAT birthdays? Do you take December 30th with LeBron James and Tiger Woods, or do you take February 17th with Michael Jordan and Jim Brown?
I'm impartial to LeBron James. I'm into LeBron James because of so many different aspects. LeBron James, other than a player, what he does outside of being a player for others, what he contributes to society, and what a lot of other players don't do, that's what impresses me about him. Yes, he's a great player. He's a scorer. He can do a whole lot. But you have to look at the whole person. the personality, the person that you never hear anything in news about. He's always in the line, not in the limelight. He's doing things behind the scenes, not looking for accolades, but just doing things that are good for kids, college, and things of that nature. That's what impresses me about him. And I think that will be one of the things that makes him one of the greatest players ever.
Hey, Earl, we appreciate your take on that. And we're going to get to Steve now on line 2. Steve, what's your take about who's GOAT?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Steve,
hey,
how's it going?
Man, I got to go along with that. I think y'all said February the 17th.
February 17th is Michael Jordan and Jim Brown.
Okay, Jim Brown was the greatest running back ever. He played on the Cleveland Browns, which was not a great team. They didn't have a great quarterback. And that was before the era of the black guys who played wide receivers who ran fast and had a lot of speed. All of the receivers, when Jim Brown was playing, was the slow white guys like Raymond Berry and Collins and all them guys, and Gifford for the Giants. They didn't have the black speedsters. So Jim Brown had to have more of an impact on the offense as compared to today. The tight ends then weren't anything until John Mackey came around. Tight ends just all they did was block and maybe ran out and there a 5-yard pass or so forth and so on. You didn't hear anything about any tight ends. So the era Jim Brown played in, he was exceptional because he was a great offensive asset to an average team with an average quarterback. Thank y'all for your time.
Hey, Leroy, Steve, we appreciate you for tuning in. And now we're going to go to Leroy next. Leroy, what's your take?
Hey, good afternoon, brothers. How y'all doing?
Good afternoon. Appreciate you for tuning in.
Sure. Hey, what's your age range in there?
I'm the youngest on here. I'm under 30, so I didn't see Jordan in his fullness.
And we're in our 30s.
I'm 36.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. See, the last brother was quite good when he mentioned Jim Brown. Just giving y'all some history because in your analysis, I didn't hear anybody even mention Jim Brown's name. And that's because y'all ain't see him. You know what I'm saying? Y'all didn't see him. You might have seen film on, but you ain't see him.
Right.
Like men, I'm about to be 58. I'm not saying nobody better or worse, but men had an inner strength that is different than what the inner strength of the men now. Just period. It's an inner strength. Like, for instance, back in my day, we don't flop. We don't fake. Just look at the life. We cut grass. We shovel snow. You don't hardly see that now. That's not taking anything away from anybody now. But time to change is different. It's different. So that inner grit, y'all don't know nothing about it. That's not y'all reference. Your reference is style and flash. It's not inner grit. That don't mean they ain't strong. But I'm talking about never say die inner grit. I would have loved to see LeBron play in the era where you have big men don't let you run to the hole like that, just as big as you. If Shaq and Malone and all of us, he wouldn't be running there like he's running through these guys now. That don't mean he's not a great player.
I think LeBron will put Karl Malone on a couple posters, respectfully. I'm just saying.
But what I'm saying to you is just a difference, brother. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna leave on this. Every man black man I know that's a contractor, they try to hire these young black men. They do, and they all complain about the same thing: lazy, don't want to work, any kind of hard work they allergic to. Everybody says it, and we all in the same age, like our 50s or 60s. You see what I'm saying? And like they just not raised. That don't mean you ain't good people, but by and large they're not raised the same way we was raised. So that inner grit, we had to have it. Everything is set up with a gun now.
Oh, Leroy, sorry we didn't finish your take. I don't know if the phone lines got.
Can I rebuttal real quick, Jay? Do I have a second?
Go ahead.
I just want to say this. This whole narrative that LeBron couldn't play in the 90s or the 80s. Do you see what this man is capable of doing? He's 7 feet tall himself, first of all. He's built like a tight end. The caller talked about some of the great tight ends. You know, John Mackey, Ozzie Newsome. I'm familiar with some. And Jim Brown, fantastic trailblazer and trendsetter. But LeBron, they say, oh, whoa, he can't get hand checked. You can hand check this man. You can hit him with a steel pipe. He's made of vibranium. He's got the Iron Man type body, like Brian said. This man could play in any era. I don't care what people are saying. If Jordan wanted to guard him one-on-one, Jordan would be in for a long day. Let's not forget, Jordan wasn't the best defender on the Bulls. It was Scottie Pippen who was their defensive stopper. I'll just leave it there.
And we can also just add real quick to what Byron's saying. If people want to say that, let's also look at facts as facts. Would Michael Jordan have been able to survive the social media era? That's all I'm going to say.
A lot.
No, because they would have him at Horseshoe getting pictures of him gambling, smoking cigars. Probably, he'd be off his game real quick.
Yeah, a lot of them would not have been able to survive the social media era. But actually, I was actually going to go with February 17th. Actually, I was going to go with Michael Jordan and Jim Brown for the fact that Jim Brown, to me, when we're talking about the greatest football player of all time, see, there's a difference between when we say the greatest quarterback and greatest football player. I think Jim Brown, to me, is the greatest football player. And then a lot of people would actually nod their heads at Jim Brown because of what he was able to do, especially because that was an era when you had to run the football and it was heavily dependent upon the running back position. And for Jim Brown to win a championship, like he said, in Cleveland, that speaks so much volumes because Cleveland hasn't been able to sniff a Super Bowl since that time.
Or win a championship until who?
Until LeBron James got there.
And LeBron has 3 championships with 3 different organizations, people. When did the Cavaliers ever win a championship? And when will they ever win one again? Probably never. Miami Heat, they're an old bunch of bag of bones now. Pat Riley looks like the youngest guy out there now. And then you look at the Lakers. The Lakers, you guys are Lakers fans. There's a lot of Lakers fans in this area. He brought you guys to relevant. Yeah, it was the Mickey Mouse bubble. Yeah, it was the Mickey Mouse ring, but he did it. And people didn't think he would get it done. And he carried that team to a championship, coming down from 3-1, as I mentioned, and doing it with the Heat back to back. They went 4 years in a row. I mean, come on now.
He went to the finals 8 years in a row.
Yeah, I'm just saying with the Heat, they went 4 in a row. It's just crazy how he was just so dominant.
That's
dominant. To your point, that's crazy.
All right, do we still have Rashid on the line? Rashid, what's your take?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You talking sports, right? I like to talk about my Morgan State Bears. I like to talk about the basketball and football team right quick. Our Lady Bears, they lost their last 2 MEAC conference games, but tomorrow at 2:00, our ladies play Dell State, and our men play Dell State at 4:00. I don't know. I'm Morgan State's hype man. I'm Let Me At 'em, right? I don't know if you was at that game last Monday when we knocked off the number 1 team in the conference. It was a standing room on the crowd at the Hill Fieldhouse.
Can I say something to you real quick? Because I am a Dell State alumni. Oh, y'all gonna beat Dell State like a drum. That's a win. Go ahead, put the W in now. Y'all gonna beat them like a drum. Y'all gonna beat them like they stole something. Go ahead, put that W in the win column. Morgan Bears, fight on. Y'all got that win, brother. I'm a Dell State alumni. I can tell you right now. Y'all gonna beat them like a drum.
Let me say this right quick, right? I don't know if you know this, but the out of all the HBCUs this year coming, we got the 5th best, the 5th ranked, recruiting football class coming in. And don't be surprised if Morgan State win this MEAC conference championship this year in football. I got guys.
Hey, we appreciate the legend for listening in. Let Me At 'em. Make sure y'all go to our Morgan games here, both football and basketball. He's there.
Yeah, they gonna beat Dell State like a drum. Go ahead, put the kids to bed. Go out and do something else. Leave at halftime. Wait for it to come out on DVD. They gonna beat them like a drum.
Actually, when you look at the next couple Morgan games, they do play Dell State, so you're right, that's a win. They can beat University of Maryland. I think that's another win. And then they conclude with Coppin State right here at Morgan. So I think that they can win their next 3 straight. Do we have anybody else on the line? All right, they're coming. But like I said, I think that February 17th, so I may be the odd man out with this, but I think that when you talk about Jim Brown and Michael Jordan, they just trump Tiger Woods and LeBron James. Not to say that there's not greatness with both of their birthdays, but I think that what Michael Jordan and Jim Brown, the impact that they made with their prospective sports was just a little stronger than what LeBron James and Tiger Woods has done, just a little bit. because and I think it's because of LeBron, not to say that he's not great or that he hasn't done anything great for our game. Michael Jordan was just like a rock star. I don't think that when you talk about like basketball and what he was like back in the 90s, I mean, plus, we can't fault Jordan either with those 6 times he went to the finals. Even with taking off and then coming back and having to take his team back to have back-to-back three-peats.
Michael
Come
never
on.
won without Scotty. LeBron won without Wade.
Yes. But LeBron, when we're talking about Dwayne Wade, we also throw in Dwayne Wade wasn't the same Dwayne Wade. Chris Bosh had to take a step back as well. And then LeBron had to go to another team because that Miami team was starting to fall back. He goes to Cleveland. It took a little bit of time, but then him, Kyrie, and Kevin Love were able to win at least one championship together.
I mean, when you can, depends which way you look at it, right? Like me, I think it's impressive to be able to go to different organizations because, like they say, it's not just the people we see on the court. You got to have everybody in line from the training staff. That's the reason why the Ravens couldn't get over. That's why they finally fired their strength and conditions coordinator. But you have to have everybody in line. So to be able to do it with 3 different organizations is impressive. I just think that, and this might sound blasphemous, but it's the OGs that's keeping the legacy of Jim Brown alive for us, because you'll have people say, well, this football player, that football player, where Michael Jordan and LeBron James, they're going to stand alone, right? They're going to always be known. Because especially with Jordan, kids know more about the shoes than the basketball player until the last dance. But then you also look at from golf and Tiger Woods, because there isn't another black star, Tiger Woods' name is going, and his greatness is going to last so much longer than Jim Brown's greatness in football as far as perception. But I understand on the field and impact. So I mean, it's a lot of different ways, but I think it's really cool that you got 4 GOATs that have a birthday between the 2 of them.
And you know what? Today's birthday, Floyd Money Mayweather. We haven't even touched on his.
There you go, Dre. Money team, baby. Your boy.
TMT.
He always gonna find a way to make mention of the money team.
Is he fighting another Uber driver out in Japan or where was he?
I heard you was up next. You got to get the payday.
He's about to get the payday.
Hey, look, brother, I'll take a couple for
Hey,
what they paying.
James.
Hey, look, I grew up with a black mother. I done took a couple beatings in my day.
We got Gene on the line. Gene, what's your take? Good afternoon. Do we have Gene on the line? No.
No. They call me James.
Oh, okay, sir. What's your take, sir?
Well, James is my middle name. My first name is Carlos. Said, boy, y'all got school today. Man, y'all got how was class? How was class today? Because y'all got school.
In order to get schools, you gotta care for the A's or the B's.
Before he comes in all slick and everything, tell them hype man. The hype man returns. What's good, man?
One of the first supporters of the wrestling realm.
Oh gosh, man. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling?
We're good, brother.
Carlos, outside of the Raven stuff, I'm all right, but I'm gonna leave that alone for right now.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I've already made my statement on that one. I don't want to hear no more about it unless it's going one way or the other.
Oh, you'll hear about it from us a little bit. I'll unleash, but go ahead, brother.
But you know what? I'm going to circle back to the topic of the whole birthday thing, and I think here we go again, right? Here we go again with another stat, another avenue to put this GOAT title on LeBron James. And I'm just going to keep saying what I've been saying the whole time. It's too subjective. It cannot be quantified. There is no one common denominator across generations that's going to ever give one person the GOAT title. Now, who's the GOAT of each specific era? You can definitely have that argument because rules change, games change, people's bodies change. You know, look at LeBron James of today and look at a Kevin McHale of the 80s. That's 2 different types of forwards. But you're never going to have a common denominator. So one day, this GOAT debate will be put to rest.
It'll never be put to rest.
It will be put to rest when the public realizes, you know what, we just can't quantify this thing because he just won't.
Well, Carl, Ms. Hype Man, while we got you on the line, let me ask you real quick. because I know we've been talking about GOAT birthdays, but Creed is about to come out.
Oh boy.
So
Can't wait.
yes,
Can't
yes.
wait.
So what is your take real quick on the series with Rocky versus Creed right now as we're talking about a transition of times?
This right here is going to either make or break Creed as a standalone trilogy. It's going to make or break it. Because right now, between the first one and the second one, it still hangs on the Rocky franchise. It still hangs on Rocky's name. If Michael B. Jordan can pull this off with a great story, a great finish, and obviously do great in the box office, it will break the Creed trilogy away from the Rocky franchise. And that will be a feather in Michael B. Jordan's cap. But
And he's directing the movie too, Carlos.
It's already facing, some negativity because, there was a bunch of spat between Sylvester Stallone and Erwin Winkler, the producers, and he, like, Sylvester didn't like the. But I mean, remember, he said he didn't want to be in it. That he was not going to reprise the role of Rocky again. He said that at the end of Creed 2 taping. Filming.
Yeah.
He said he wasn't going to do it again. This is the last time you would ever see Rocky ever again.
You
And then here
believed
comes
him?
Creed 3, and now he's like, "Where's my role?" And they're like, "Well, I mean, we could put you in, and you just going to like keep doing the manager thing, but we don't have a story for you, though." And now he's mad, and he's going around doing all these interviews talking about he won't support the movie.
It's Rocky, man.
I don't care. I don't care.
Look, we gotta take a quick break, y'all.
Thanks, Carlos, brother. Love you.
Appreciate you, Carlos, for being on. In hour 2, we've got Coach Butch McAdams. So stay tuned, y'all. It's Two-Way Talk here on WEAA.
Good evening from the MTA. Library Link is running on schedule this evening. Metro Subway Link, you're going to find 15 to 20-minute delays on Metro Subway Link. On Mark, we have some delays. Penn Line 532, a 15 to 20-minute delay. Penn Line 428, a 5 to 10-minute delay. For the MTA Transit Team, I'm Amy Friedman on 88.9 FM WEAA, the voice of the community.
The voice of the community. This is Dre filling in for Gabe Ortiz on this Flex Zone Takeover, as we like to call it, because I am a part of the Flex Zone podcast as well. And I can't do this without my host, my brother, Byron. Byron, we still got you?
Yes, you still got me. Shout out to everybody. Got everybody listening in the comments here on YouTube as well. The Flex Zone podcast on YouTube. If you are listening, hit that subscribe button. Follow us. We do it all. We talk all types of sports. So, Dre, appreciate the opportunity as always, my brother. You always do a great job.
Hey, thank you for being on. And of course, we've got Coach from Coach and the Kid. This is their segment right here. Coach Butch McAdams. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so I've looked forward to this conversation with you for quite some time, sir, to have you on. The Baltimore Ravens right now, of course, there's been all this talk about Lamar Jackson and his contract.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's coming out that Lamar Jackson wants a fully guaranteed contract. Do you give Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed contract?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because first of all, he showed, and we don't know whether or not he's lost a certain amount of durability at this stage in his career. But what we do know that he's been hurt in consecutive seasons. Also, he's 1-3 in the playoffs. Okay, and you give him a good contract, but you don't give him a Deshaun Watson contract. And I don't think anybody's going to get that. I think when Hurts signs or Allen or those other top-of-the-line Burrow quarterbacks, they're going to get good money. But I don't think they're going to get Deshaun Watson guaranteed money. That was just a desperate move by a desperate franchise.
Byron, before we come to you, let me ask Coach this. So, Coach, if you feel like he doesn't deserve a fully guaranteed contract, what percentage of guaranteed money do you give him? 200 million, less than 200 million, about 250?
I would give him pretty much in the range that they offered him, between 130 and 140.
Really, Coach? 130?
Yeah. 130. I think that's the offer that he left on the table was 133 guaranteed dollars. Now that's not the whole contract, but let's say if I were negotiating, I think his worth would be over $200 million and 100 and let's say 35 of it guaranteed.
Byron, let me get your take right here on Lamar and this guaranteed money.
Well, I don't think there was news that Lamar wanted a fully guaranteed contract because the situation we're finding ourselves in, and Coach, you did a great job talking about it. Lamar isn't negotiating. He's demanding things. And when you have a contract, you can't just say, gimme, 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 gimme. It doesn't work like that. So a lot of times with Lamar not having an agent, this is where it kind of hurts him because an agent will say, okay, we can't get you 250 guaranteed, but we can get you 180 and we can use that extra 20, 30 million and go get you some help, get you some weapons. And I think, Coach, you hit on the point. Waiting is going to be the best thing for the Ravens because when they see Jalen Hurts get his deal, when they see Joe Burrow get his deal and they're not fully guaranteed, and you see these guys taking friendlier, team-friendly options to keep some of their weapons around them, much like Patrick Mahomes has done, it will help the Ravens because Lamar will say, okay, you didn't take us to a Super Bowl. You didn't go to an AFC Championship game, and you want a fully guaranteed contract? These guys aren't getting fully guaranteed. Why should you? And honestly, I think next week a lot will come to light because the combine is going on. That is where everybody will be there. Lottie-dottie everybody, as you say, Dre. They will be in attendance and they will be talking. Oh, is Lamar available? Oh, what can we do to get Lamar? So we will learn a lot more in the next week or so because right after the combine is free agency. And the Ravens know that there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that are going to be signing. Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield. All these guys are going to be signing because teams need quarterbacks and they strike while the iron is hot. So Lamar waiting and the Ravens waiting, it kind of helps, I think, them with the leverage because I think he will ultimately play under the franchise tag. And I think the Ravens will find out two things. One, like Coach said, can he stay healthy? And number two, can he play in a pro-style offense, which Todd Monken is bringing?
When you're talking about the guaranteed money, Josh Allen, you got him at 150, Aaron Rodgers at 150.6, Russell Wilson at 165 million, and Kyler Murray at 189. Coach, you wouldn't just give Lamar Jackson that 200 million just to kind of make him
No,
happy and give him that long term? Because
no.
it seems like the difference is the holdup seems to be the guaranteed money. I don't
Yes,
think that's
yes,
an issue with the contract, but the guaranteed money is the holdup
yes.
of him
That's
signing.
the holdup. Yes, absolutely. That's the holdup. But I would not give him. I don't know. And the young man made excellent points, especially when he said, and I'm paraphrasing, that Lamar Jackson is not negotiating, he's demanding. Okay, and I think the first thing Lamar needs to do, and we've said this hundreds of times, he needs to hire an agent. Okay, but if you look at those contracts, now, the only contract that was mentioned that I think is going to be not worth it would be Murray. I don't think he's going to be but so good. Okay, I question his work ethic. I question his dedication to being a super productive quarterback in the NFL. But no, I would not give him over 140 guaranteed dollars, 140 million guaranteed dollars.
Byron, what do you think that the guaranteed money should be with Lamar Jackson?
Well, today, and I don't know if Coach or Dre, I know you might have heard, but Stephen A apparently was contacted by Lamar Jackson's camp, which means Lamar Jackson. And apparently they're saying he doesn't want a fully guaranteed deal. Now, if you remember after the Jets game, there was an article on ESPN who wrote the article that came out yesterday saying that Lamar wanted somewhere in the 160 to 180 guaranteed money, and he turned that down. So what that leads me to believe is, like you guys were saying, he wants about 200 million at least guaranteed. Now, personally, I don't know how the Ravens cap is. It's usually trash, and a long-term deal would help them, but I still think the best thing for the Ravens and Lamar, kick the can down the road another year. Play under that franchise tag. You're going to get your $45.2 million. We're going to see if you can play under a pro-style offense. You can stay healthy. And we're going to go get you a weapon or two. We're going to go get you some receivers. We're going to go get you some help. Because I think the Ravens have done a lot of this. They've kissed a lot of Lamar tail. Let's not forget, they bought in Greg Roman for Lamar. They bought in this type of offense for Lamar. They bought in his quarterback coach last year. That was for Lamar to kiss his butt, make him feel empowered, make him feel good. Yeah, Hollywood wasn't happy here. His best friend, he wanted out. But they've done everything they can to make Lamar happy, I think, in my opinion. And that's the thing with these superstars. And, Coach, I'm sure you can attest to that. You try to make them happy, but you don't want to bend over backwards too much because at the end of the day, it is still a business.
Let me ask Coach
Absolutely.
about the franchise tag. But with Byron's point, do you think that Lamar should sign this franchise tag?
Well, I think that, yeah, if that's his only other recourse, because he needs a job. Okay. But if I'm the Ravens, I don't know. I would sign him to the franchise tag, but I would look to trade him because I don't think that they're going to come to terms on a compatible deal. And I would strike while the iron is hot, okay? Because who's to say that if they do franchise him, that Lamar's value will go up? So if I'm the Ravens, and I know Gabe, my partner, he doesn't agree with this, but if I'm the Ravens and I get a team that's willing to offer me a super package of first-round picks, let's say 3 first-round picks and a second, I make that deal. I make that deal because I think long-term that they're not going to come to a compatible deal. That's how I see it.
Byron, do you go with what Coach just said and trade for Lamar Jackson?
Well, I think the trade aspect, if it has to happen, if you're going to trade Lamar, that means one of two things. The Ravens like this quarterback class in 2023. I'm a little 50-50 on it. There are a few guys who are good, but I think if anything, 2024
I agree.
has the higher ceiling with a couple guys at the top.
I agree.
But with that being said, I think if you're going to trade him, it has to happen soon because once free agency happens, once the clock strikes 12 like Cinderella, these boys are signing. So Aaron Rodgers, he's out of his hobbit-like darkness state. He's back on the grid. You got Derek Carr, Jimmy G, Baker Mayfield. You got all these guys out there who are going to sign with teams because teams are desperate for a quarterback. They go above and beyond to sign these guys. So once these guys start signing, that leaves limited options for Lamar Jackson and teams to go to, which leaves limited options for the Ravens to trade for, which means teams can lowball them. That's why I think franchise tag is just the best thing for all parties because if you're going to trade Lamar, you want to do it sooner rather than later because you don't want to be in April right before the draft where you're desperate to trade him and then teams know that. Then you're kind of one hand behind your back. I think if anything, you let him play out this year, see what happens. And if you can, I think Lamar is a superstar quarterback. We can't discount that. So teams will want him regardless. But I think you just try to maximize your value because right now you're going to get lowballed. He's hurt. He hasn't played in 2-3 months. And it's rumors that he's not going to meetings. He's not being his jovial self. It's just he's putting a contract before the team.
I'm glad that you mentioned the injury because let me ask you, Coach, what do you think is more of the hang up about Lamar signing this deal as opposed to just the guaranteed money? Is it really the fact of him not having an agent and representing himself? Or is it the injury history being that he has not been able to finish out the last 2 seasons?
I think it's both. I think that if he had an agent, then the agent would have sat down with him and given him a more of a realistic figure to negotiate, as Byron stated earlier. But secondly, he, in the last 2 years, I don't know whether these things are freak accidents or what, but in the last 2 years, he's been injured, and you don't want to give that much guaranteed money to a player that may not be on the field. And then also, this is the ugly number that people don't want to talk about, and it's not totally his fault. But the reality is he's 1-3 in the playoffs. Now, if you're talking about a Patrick Mahomes, or if you're talking about a Burrow, guys who have gone to championship games, guys who have won championships, then that's a different conversation, okay? Lamar bet on himself, as Flacco did. You say what you want about Flacco, but he bet on himself and he won. Okay, Lamar bet on himself, and I'm not going to say he lost, but he didn't help his cause.
Well, if people want to chime in, call in 410-319-8888. We're talking about Lamar Jackson's contract right now, whether the Baltimore Ravens will sign him and what are the hiccups behind it. Byron, let me ask you the same question.
Mhm.
Do you think it's more about the agent or the injury history in addition to the guaranteed money separation?
I think the Ravens are a little skeptical about that too, but I think going back to when your owner, the man who signs the check saying we're not doing a fully guaranteed contract, and like Coach Butch said, Cleveland's a desperate organization. Dre, we call them the Cleveland Clowns for a reason. They haven't done anything since Jim Brown was there. We know this. And I think the Ravens, they ultimately want to keep Lamar Jackson. Let's be real. There are 2 types of teams in the NFL. Either you have a quarterback or you don't. Look at the Super Bowl. Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. You want to go back to Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, these guys. Look at the 49ers. They lost both of their quarterbacks, and look what happened to them. They were 1 game away from the Super Bowl, and just like that, with a snap, it was gone. So when you have a quarterback, you want to do everything you can to keep him. But I think this is going to come to a head. If Lamar comes out, because we haven't heard really from Lamar, if he comes out and says, I want to be traded, then I think that's when you will see a trade happen. Because once a player says they want to be traded publicly, or as they do now in our generation, scrub their Instagram or put it on social media, it's kind of just inevitable. But I would say this with the injury history, and let's not debate the facts, the numbers. Lamar has regressed since the MVP season. He was a unanimous MVP, but this season he regressed. Last season he regressed. 2020 he couldn't even beat COVID, unfortunately. So he has regressed numbers wise. Yes, they had a lot of double-digit leads, and you can put some of that on the defense. But after September this season, the games he did play, he did not look that good most of the time, personally, in my opinion, especially throwing the football. That's what it comes down to. We know he can run the ball, but when your legs aren't working, And I said it for the Super Bowl. When you have to make those tight throws, those tight man-to-man coverage in those tight windows, throw your guys open like we're seeing with Mahomes. Even Jalen Hurts did a hell of a job with that. And you talk about his improvement. I think Lamar needs to look at what Jalen Hurts did the past year, improving himself, improving his body, and improving his accuracy with the deep ball as a guy to model his game after. But I think you have to look at it. They're looking at Lamar the passer. Now they're going to find out a lot this year. Like I said, pro-style offense, get him some weapons. I think he can do it, but he has to show that improvement. And I think T. Martin becoming a quarterback's coach could help with that if Lamar buys in.
Byron, let me ask you about what Coach said about the playoff record. Do you think that the playoff record should factor into this contract?
It all does, because what happens when you have a negotiation, the team is telling you why you're not getting paid $250 million guaranteed. Usually they're telling that to the agent. But when you don't have an agent, they're saying that to Lamar. So it's not Lamar the quarterback. It's not Lamar on social media, Lamar from South Florida. Lamar Jackson, you missed 11 games. Lamar Jackson, let's bring up this wide open throw to Tylen Wallace that you missed. Nobody within 30 feet of him, and you missed the throw. Let's bring in the game where you threw 3 picks, or you had 4 fumble, or you missed this guy open in the flat. They're going to bring up all the negative reasons why they shouldn't pay you. Just like when you go to your boss and say, hey, can I get a promotion? Hey, can I get a raise? They're going to tell you all the reasons why you won't get a raise and what you need to do to get it. And unfortunately, these players' egos get burned. They get upset. They go to social media. They go to the agents and they want to get traded. And Lamar doesn't have an agent. So he's going home to mom, or mom's hearing it too, just like he is. And they're getting pissed off. And unfortunately, they may take it the wrong way and they may want to get out. But when you don't have an agent, you have to hear the harsh realities of how you're not performing up to your contract.
That's very well said. That's very well said. And that's another major reason, besides having someone that is his or her profession to negotiate for you. But the other reason is that the individual, him or herself, in this case, Lamar, doesn't have to sit at the table and hear reasons why they don't want to give him a fully guaranteed contract. He just has to hire an agent. My question before we go to lines is that, and there's always been the age-old question in sport, are you injured or are you hurt? And you can play hurt, as Patrick Mahomes demonstrated, but you can't play injured. And I bring that subject up because towards the end, that playoffs game against Cincinnati, you have to ask the question, and I think it'd be unfair for anyone to speculate one way or the other, but I think the question is a valid one. Lamar didn't play. Lamar didn't show up to the game, and was he hurt or was he injured?
That's a fair question. Let's go to the phone lines at 410-319-8888. We have Chase on the line. Chase, what's your take? Hi, Chase. No, Chase. All right, we got Clarence on the line. Clarence, what's your take?
Hey, my take is this. When you look at Lamar Jackson, what is Lamar Jackson when you put him up next to Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Burrows, or any of the other top 10 ranked quarterbacks in the NFL? What attributes has Lamar Jackson showed you that he should be in the top 10? When you talk about the first playoff games, the Chargers figured out how to shut Lamar Jackson down by taking away his ability to run the ball, because he couldn't throw the slant. He couldn't hit the Travis Kelce type cutting across the middle between the two defensive backs. He couldn't throw that pass into the windows, into that tight window like that. And the NFL coaches and teams around the NFL know what the weaknesses of Lamar Jackson is. He wants to be a running back first, then a quarterback, when these other guys that you're talking about, they are quarterbacks who can throw that ball into any situation, and they have the ability to get the yards with their legs. That's not the case with Lamar Jackson, and that is what I see. I do not see, even though he's a good football player, I'm not taking that away from him. He has not demonstrated to me the same abilities game after game that a Patrick Mahomes, even any of these other quarterbacks have shown me. He has to learn how, in my opinion, to be a quarterback first and then a running back, a quarterback with the ability to run and not a quarterback with the running ability. And, I can throw it when I have to. So, I don't think he stacks up in that top 10 of quarterbacks in the NFL based on his abilities to be an NFL quarterback.
The only thing I would challenge, and the caller had a great analogy, but Byron, I don't think that there's 9 quarterbacks.
Oh no, he's definitely top 10, coach. I'm not going to dispute that. He wins. He wins. He wins.
That I would take. Now, he's not top 5, okay, but by my count, currently, I would have him between 6 and 8.
So
I think he's.
who would be in your top 5 then, Coach?
Well, my top 5 obviously would be Mahomes, and then you talk about Burrow would be there, Josh Allen would be there, Hurts would be there, and then I'm looking at Jackson, Herbert, and Lawrence.
So, Coach, you think that Jalen Hurts, is it because of his run to the Super Bowl that he's surpassed Lamar Jackson, or do you think that this was already in the making?
Well, I think that the season that he's had at this point, he has surpassed Lamar Jackson. Now, he has a lot of weapons to work with, but still, he's shown a little more poise than Jackson has shown, in my opinion. And if I had to select between the two, I would certainly select without hesitation Hurts.
Byron, what about you?
Mahomes, Burrow, those are your top 2. Mahomes is by itself, but then Burrow, Josh Allen. I'm still putting Aaron Rodgers in my top 5 personally, just because of what he can do. So you could have him at 4. And 5 is really a personal opinion. I mean, looking at the landscape of the NFL, Trevor Lawrence is coming, coach. I agree with you. I may still have Lamar there. Russell Wilson, I don't think he's done, even though he may have regressed a little bit. He might still be in the mix. Justin Herbert, he's a great regular season quarterback, but he can't do nothing for you in the playoffs, so I can't put him over Lamar. So Lamar's probably still at 5. I mean, he's still at 5, but the gap between him and Burrow, just look at the division he's in. He's not even the best quarterback in his division right now. And you look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, they want a comparable to Lamar. Jalen Hurts, he couldn't throw. Oh, he was just a running back playing quarterback. This year, he did what he did. He worked on his body. He worked on his deep ball, one of the best deep balls in the league, and he was durable. He really was playing with cracked ribs. Talk about the whole hurt, injured thing. He was playing with cracked ribs, and Mahomes playing on one leg, both in the Super Bowl. And Josh Allen played with one arm most of the season. So that kind of had me upset that Lamar didn't try to go. But if he is injured, I respect it. I'll believe his word for it. But I don't like the aspect of him not being the guy we fell in love with, the jovial guy, laughing on the sideline, pumping up his team, being that leader of men, being part of the team camaraderie, being a leader, to being an isolated, aloof, where he just comes in, goes to meetings, goes home, doesn't talk to anybody, and just goes about his day. I don't like that when you talk about the team aspect, because football is the ultimate team game where all 11 guys on the field have to be in unison to win.
Let's hold that thought right there. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to get into our top 5 after the break, as well as our interview with Eris Thomas. This is Two-Way Talk here on WEAA 88.9 FM. Absolutely, the voice of the community. Stay 101.9 FM. Absolutely, the voice of the community. This is Dre filling in for Gabe Ortiz on this Friday sports edition of Two-Way Talk. We call it the Flex Zone Takeover because it is myself and my brother, my right-hand man, the host of the Flex Zone, alongside me, Byron. He is in, as well as Coach Butch McAdams from the Coach and the Kid segment right here. So we've been talking about Lamar Jackson, and we've transitioned into our top 5 quarterbacks. Byron, who are your top 5 quarterbacks right now in the NFL?
As I mentioned, I think Patrick Mahomes is on a planet of all his own. I mean, just can't argue that. I'll put Joe Burrow at number 2. I think he is a good number 2. Josh Allen is number 3. I still have Aaron Rodgers at number 4. And based on this year, because we're going into 2023, I would put Hurts at 5 just because of he would have been MVP if he didn't get hurt. Let's not forget that. And they really had a chance to win that Super Bowl if he didn't fumble the ball. They probably would have ran him out the building. That momentum shift. And I would probably have Lamar at 6 or 7. I'm hard pressed, like the caller said. I don't think Lamar is outside the top 10. And Coach, you agree with me. Dre, I think you agree with me. Lamar is one of the most winningest quarterbacks in NFL history. The key is going to come down to what he does in the playoffs. But I still have Lamar. You can put him at 5. You can put him at 6 or 7. Right now, for me, he's probably at like 6 or 7 on the outside looking in, just based on the guys ahead of him that have had a better season and a better track record in the postseason, in my opinion.
He's won 75% of his games, only the 4th behind Tom Brady. Some other quarterbacks come to mind too at the moment, but I know that Mahomes is definitely in that list, but he is number 4 right now when it comes to the all-time winningest quarterbacks, right there within the first couple of seasons. Lamar, and I do agree that Lamar is number 6 right now. I think Jalen Hurts, from this season, we're just looking at this season alone, Jalen Hurts has surpassed Lamar Jackson, but I think Lamar Jackson has a chance to come back and put himself in that top 5 category. Should Lamar Jackson sign the franchise tag, wait until Burrow, Hurts, they get their money, and then try to sign his contract? Or should he just take his talents maybe to South Beach?
Well, I think that, as was stated earlier, that right now everything favors the organization, the Ravens, because I don't think you're going to see those guys get 200 million, 250 million guaranteed contracts. I don't think any of them will get fully guaranteed contracts. And so I think that you're talking about at least 2 or 3 of the quarterbacks that most people, most observers would say ranked ahead of Lamar at this point. So I think it's in the favor of the organization.
When it comes to his offensive coordinator, do you think that the Ravens made the right move at who they selected to hire, or should they maybe have hired somebody else like an Eric Bieniemy, Coach?
Well, I really can't say, because I think that, now this is just me, I think too much emphasis is placed on the offensive coordinator. I think more emphasis should be placed on the quarterback coach, because Lamar needs some things that he's got to work on. Okay, now, and I'm not certain whether or not the Ravens in the past, and Byron, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on this, but I'm not certain if the Ravens in the past have really worked with Lamar to improve some of his deficiencies, or they're saying, hey, we're going to let Lamar be Lamar.
Well, Coach, that goes back to my point. They were kissing the butt. They were doing everything, bending over backwards for Lamar, letting him have his quarterback coach, Adam Dito, on the field with him while he's going through drills and practices with the team. You don't ever see things like that. You saw that in Denver with Russell Wilson. You saw what happened with him this past year. And Sean Payton, first day, when they asked him about it, he said, oh, no, we're not doing that. He out of here. So Adam Dito, you guys to go. That's why I think Lamar needs a quarterback coach, T. Martin, another brother who's worked with Lamar, and I think he's won a national championship at Tennessee, I believe, who can tell Lamar, look, getting his, what, and say, you have regressed in certain areas. We need you to be the best. You want to get that bag, you want to get paid, we need you to do that. But I do like the Todd Monken hire, because Monken does use a lot of He's done a lot with less. He hasn't had the number 1 draft picks. He hasn't had all of the great talent. He uses his running backs in the passing game. He runs the screen game. He uses the tight end well. Mark Andrews is as good as anybody, and he gets the most out of his players, and he adapts. And I think that is very, very important and makes adjustments. And then coming from the college game is very, very important because what do you see on Sunday now? They're doing everything they do in college, running the spread, using the quarterbacks to move outside of the pocket, using the running backs in the passing game. So I do like the hire of Monken from a schematic standpoint, but him and Lamar, they got to get on the same page because it's all about chemistry.
An old coach years ago made this profound statement that this guy was such a great coach that he could take yours and beat his and take his and beat yours. And I say that in using this analogy. Let's say hypothetically, the Ravens would have Mahomes and Kansas City would have Lamar. Same personnel, but the only switch would be the 2 quarterbacks. My question is, would Kansas City have won a Super Bowl with Lamar quarterback, and would the Ravens have exited in the first round with Mahomes as the quarterback? Now, again, this is hypothetical. We'll never know. But from my hypothetical analysis, you put Patrick Mahomes on this roster, he takes the Ravens to the conference championship. You put Lamar Jackson on Kansas City, they win 1 playoff game and they lose the next. That's how I see it.
And Coach, to your point, think about Kansas City's offseason. They traded Tyreek Hill, one of the 3 or 4 best receivers in the league, faster than a cheetah. He's called a cheetah for a reason. They traded him. They got Juju Smith and Marquez Valdez-Scantling as their receivers, and they're making them look like Pro Bowlers. They get Kadarius Toney from the Giants. I mean, Travis Kelce is one of the greatest tight ends ever, maybe number 1 when it's all said and done. But outside of Kelce, Mahomes has done more with less than anybody. So talking about an MVP, I think Mahomes with this defense, oh my goodness, he would probably go back to back.
That's my point. And the running game.
Yes.
Now, he doesn't have Travis Kelce, but he's got Mark Andrews, who's not chopped liver. So I'm saying you put Mahomes on this roster and you put Jackson on Kansas City, use your analytical imagination, and what do you come out with?
Well, let's go to the phone lines real quick at 410-319-8888. I believe we have Roger from the Flex Zone who's calling in as well. Roger, what's your take?
What's going on, Andre? What's going on, Byron? What's going on, Coach?
Hey, Raj.
Roger. This is Raj calling in from the Flex Zone. I just want to give a shout out to you guys, man. Excellent show. I've been listening the whole way through. I do believe that Lamar Jackson, this could be his final year in Baltimore. There's a lot of turmoil going on right now this week. A lot of stories, a lot of speculation. He has to come out and dispel a lot of stuff today with, him not getting a guaranteed contract or whatever. But I think that all in all, that I think Lamar Jackson could be here. It just they gotta find a way to get to a middle ground. They have to find a way to get together sometime during this week or next week or whatever, and just hash it out, because I don't think Baltimore is in a position to lose him, since we're so close to being a championship team. But that's just my take, fellas. I hope y'all have a great rest of the show. I'm gonna continue to keep listening.
Hey, Raj, we appreciate you not only for tuning in, but all the work that you've been doing to help propel the Flex Zone. Roger's been helping us with our social media, making sure that YouTube, our Facebook, everything's just been lined up. And if it wasn't for Roger, the Flex Zone wouldn't be in the position that it is. So thank you, Raj, for listening.
Yeah, shout out to Raj. And real quick, to Raj's point, anytime the contract negotiations ever get into the media, Coach, it's never a good thing. When it's quiet, silence is golden. But once it starts getting into the media and now social media and he said, she said, and Stephen A screaming on ESPN saying what they told him, it's never good.
Coach, what's your take?
I agree. I agree. And again, Lamar Jackson, and I know Lamar's like a sacred cow in Baltimore. People love him, and I guess they should. But, you have to call the king out when he doesn't have clothes on. And there are a lot of things that Lamar has not, in my opinion, handled professionally. Again, as we say, Exhibit A, representing himself. That shouldn't happen. Also, Lamar, even beyond the injuries that have prevented him from being on the field game time, but, he's had these mysterious illnesses that have prevented him from practicing from time to time. And so I think you factor all of that in. And then here's my question. Even with Lamar, he remains with the Ravens. Do you believe Lamar Jackson can take a Ravens team to the Super Bowl?
Yes. I do believe emphatically Lamar Jackson can take this Ravens team to the Super Bowl. I think that from what we've seen in the MVP season, I think that he's been able to win a playoff game. And if he can just stay healthy, I think that this team has enough to win a Super Bowl, and that Lamar Jackson should get his contract. Maybe not a fully guaranteed contract, but I do believe that he's worth in that realm of what we talked about earlier with the Josh Allens of that 150 million or more with the guaranteed money.
See, I don't believe so. Okay, I believe he certainly is capable of leading him to a 13 or 14 win season. But to me, he has not demonstrated that he's capable of consistency in January. And what I mean by that is getting the first round victory, which I think he's more than capable of doing. But after that, winning 2 more games. He has not proven to me that he's capable of winning 3 consecutive games in January.
Well, Coach, I think Lamar is capable because the team in Philly, they're built a lot like the Ravens are. Only thing they have that the Ravens don't is better receivers. Think about it. The Ravens have a very good offensive line. They can run the football. Philly was number 1 in rushing. We look at the big plays that Jalen Hurts made. They were still number 1 in rushing. You got Philly that can run the ball, and their defense. The Ravens' defense, in my opinion, was right up there with Philly. I mean, Philly got more sacks, but got none in the Super Bowl. But if the Ravens look at the blueprint of what Philly did, go out and get Jalen Hurts a receiver or 2. Go get Lamar a receiver or 2. You get Bateman back. Then, like I said, that's why the franchise tag is the best option. You're going to put everything in the middle of the table, put all your chips to the middle of the table like a game of poker, and you're going to see if Lamar can stay healthy. Can he run a pro-style offense? And can he effectively make the plays that he needs to with weapons? Because I'm getting all in the comments here, oh, he doesn't have weapons. Oh, he had drop passes. That's true, but he has missed throws, and he's made mistakes of his own as well. So I think Philly's a blueprint that they can get to and possibly win the Super Bowl.
Well, Philly is the blueprint, but if they hold on to Lamar, I don't think that the Ravens are going to be able to complete their roster. Whether it's right or wrong, but it's been reported that there are a lot of the free agent receivers aren't opting to come to Baltimore because
they're going to have to trade for a guy, Coach. Nobody's going to sign here, I think, willingly because they are very cap stricken.
And here's the only thing thus far, Byron, that I disagree with you on, and it's a slight disagreement. I don't think the Ravens' defense is nowhere near as good as Philly. Now, the Ravens have a good front 7, and they're very good against the run, and they can generate a decent pass rush. But I don't like they don't cover that well. They do not cover that well.
And that goes back to the pass rush, Coach. That pass rush was leaving a lot to be desired, especially in late game situations, 4th downs, red zone. They didn't get the timely pressure. That's the key. It's timely pressures that matter.
I don't think that they're getting that pressure to the quarterback, like you said, Byron. But let me get your final thoughts before we go to our interview. Coach, what are your final thoughts? Does Lamar Jackson sign the franchise tag, or does he get that long-term deal before the season starts?
Oh, I think he signs franchise tag. I don't see him getting that long-term deal unless he comes to his senses and accepts, as I've stated before, a very fair and very appropriate deal that the franchise or the organization, i.e. the Ravens, have put on the table. I don't see this because now it's not about, as we've stated, professionalism, meaning having a professional negotiator. Now it's about ego. It's about upsmanship. And I don't see it happening.
Byron, what are your final thoughts?
I'm going to die on the hill that Lamar will be in Baltimore in 2023. Ravens fans I always say relax, let it play out. Now after that, I can't guarantee it, but I think the franchise tag is the best thing. And I think with filling out this team, it's all about choices. It's all about the choices you make. It's like filling the pieces to a puzzle. What pieces fit, what pieces don't. If you bring Lamar back, you probably got to lose a couple of guys. Now, with the long-term deal, you get a long-term deal, it helps you out. You maybe can keep some of those guys. So there's a give and take. Do you want that superstar quarterback and lose your depth on defense or at the running back position? Or do you want to, possibly let your quarterback play it out this year and put all your chips in the middle of the table? It's all about choices and fitting the pieces to the puzzle. But I do think Lamar ultimately plays under the franchise tag.
Coach, where can people find you?
Thank you. People can find me on Sundays on WOL, DCnews.com. They can check out my podcast on the African American Athlete.com or just befriend me on Facebook, Butch McAdams, and you will be able to follow me. But I really appreciate this. And hey, I look forward every Monday and Friday joining the kid, Gabe Ortiz, and here on the great WEAA.
Byron, where can people find you and the Flex Zone? All right. We can find the Flex Zone podcast every Monday. Make sure you go to YouTube, like and subscribe, and on Facebook. Mondays at 10 p.m. You can find us right there. Right now, we're about to go to our interview with Eris Thomas. Stay tuned.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We were live on WEAA, local radio station here in the Baltimore and surrounding areas. If you're new to the channel, you're new to what we do here on the Flex Zone podcast, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell. A lot to get into. We'll be live Monday night, 10 p.m., talking more Lamar as news breaks. Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh will be speaking next week at the Combine as well. Vote on the poll. Let us know your thoughts. This Lamar Jackson situation. It's going to be interesting over the next few weeks. But God's favorite host, shout out to Dre, shout out to everybody at WEAA 80.9. You can play this back. We were live for damn near 2 hours talking about it all. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell. Keep up with us. Have a great night, everybody, and enjoy your weekend.